Robots, Belinda, and incels, oh my! Grab your protest signs, the robot revolution is here. Today, we're going to be talking about the brand new season premiere of Doctor Who. So let's not waste any time and jump straight into the review. With Doctor Who, I always like to watch the episode twice before I really have a concrete opinion. Because the first time I watched this episode, I was a bit apprehensive about it, and I felt like I wasn't in love with it. But then the second time I watched it, a lot of my problems I had with my first viewing were solved in the rewatch. But before we dive into the plot, I really want to start by talking about Belinda. Instantly straight out of the bat, I find Belinda a much more believable character than Ruby Sunday. And I think the major reason for this is because her relationship with the Doctor has some tension to it. Because it hasn't got the same vibe of, we're best friends even though we just met. And I just don't think that is the best place to find drama, whereas having a little bit of tension instantly creates a bit more of an interesting dynamic. Like, one of my favorite things that she says to the Doctor is like, I am not one of your adventures. And I think after, we've had that Clara and Ruby, where they're like this mystery for the Doctor and he's not even seeing them as people, I think saying something so explicit like that is really good. And I think it kind of snaps the Doctor out of his stupidity. I also think Verada does a really great job at those comedic moments. Like, she doesn't seem to overdo them. Like in the moment where the Doctor says, it's timey-wimey, and she's like, am I 6? It's very quick and snappy, but it's not overdone with a wink to the camera, unlike some characters. I think it's the correct approach to keep the storyline a little bit light, whilst also taking herself as a real person as well. I enjoy how Belinda is reacting to being taken by these robots, and she's talking to Mrs. Flood and being like, you've got to tell my family and stuff like that. I think she does that well, even though the scenario is so ridiculous. I feel like Verada tries to ground this moment and make it feel more real. And I think she does the best she can with the scene that she's been given. I would really love to see more of Belinda and who she is. I feel like I've got a little bit of a glimpse in that, but I know it's only 50 minutes. But in other TV shows, 50 minutes is longer than most of their episodes, and you still get a really good understanding of who that character is. The problem with Doctor Who is that there's so many elements and so many characters, and you're chucking that into 58 minutes, and it can sometimes be harder to understand who these people are. But I feel like what we do know about Belinda, I like her, but I would love to see more of her world. I would have liked to have got to meet her roommates a bit more. And especially when we're going to be talking about the villain of this story, we barely see him, and I think that's a real issue. Let's jump straight to him then. Let's not waste any time and talk about Alan. First of all, I was really happy to see the casting of Alan being Johnny Green. Johnny Green plays Tyler Steele in the Torchwood Big Finish audio series, and he's brilliant in it. There's an episode about homelessness, which is the most harrowing thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. And if you're ever going to listen to a Torchwood, this is the one. So it's great to get an actor like him into Doctor Who because it just makes sense. But I always feel like Doctor Who wastes its guest actors because this character is really reduced to a handful of scenes. And you don't really get time to really get to know who he is until the end. And it's retroactively filling us in with more information about who he is as a character, where as an audience, we should have had more time to deduce that he was behind it. Because realistically, until we get to the final reveal that it's him, we only see him in one scene. We see him in that opening scene that goes pretty fast. And with that opening scene as well, the first time I watched it, I didn't interpret some of the more toxic things that he was saying. I took him as an awkward teenager who didn't know how to talk to people. That was my interpretation of it. But on my second viewing, I heard a bit more of the dialogue that I didn't hear in the first go. I heard about the stuff like, oh, girls aren't good at math and stuff like that, which is something I completely missed on the first watch. So there's stuff like that where it's like, if you weren't paying attention from the very beginning or you didn't have subtitles on because the sound mix is horrific, you're going to miss out on these things. And then it gets to the end and you're like, oh, he's an incel. I didn't see that coming. Where it actually is there in the script, but you don't get much time to think about it because it's all moving at an electric pace. I saw a lot of people online saying that the incel storyline lacked subtlety. My issue isn't with saying the word incel and saying this is the planet of the incels and that stuff like that, which yes, that could be a bit heavy-handed, because I was saying earlier about us not really seeing this character throughout the episode too much. I don't think we were given enough time with him to really make a deduction for ourselves as the audience to say, that's an incel. So this is a problem throughout this era as we get to these final moments and there's this massive revelation that this person was here the whole time. It's like, oh, didn't you notice it? Didn't you notice it? In that one line of dialogue and that was it. Whereas if we had a few more scenes with him, we saw their dynamic a bit more, maybe we would have picked up on that as an audience ourselves and we didn't have to say, that's an incel. Because it feels like we're being told things rather than us seeing them. And this is a problem as well I have with the Doctor in this and the Doctor and Belinda. You know, you have those final moments where the Doctor says, I've just witnessed your whole timeline because I touched you with this weird time distortion thing. And you're brilliant. You're amazing. You're this brilliant person. And it's like, well, let the audience decide that she's brilliant. Let me decide that she's brilliant. You can't just say, oh, she's wonderful, she's fantastic, she's marvelous. And it's like, well, let me decide if she's marvelous. You know, like give us a second, give us a reason to think that as well. Because another example is with Empire of Death, and you have the whole Ruby's mum is pointing and what does that mean? And then it's later revealed that she's pointing at a sign and she's naming Ruby. And it's like, well, originally she wasn't pointing in Church of Ruby Road. Then we retroactively changed that she was, which is fine. We can adjust for that. But then we're supposed to believe that a sign has magically appeared saying Ruby Road, and that's what she's pointing at the whole time. It's like, how many times have we got to justify reinventing this original scene in order to give it new context so your plot can work? It feels insulting as an audience member because once again, we're being just told, we're saying, well, this was here, but it wasn't. And it's like, come on, that's not fair on your audience. It's treating us like we're idiots. So yeah, I don't really love that type of recurring thing that seems to be happening during this era, where things are being said and explained with information that we should have known already, but it was never there in the first place. Let's talk about Ncuti's Doctor. His costume in the first half of the episode is one of my favorite costumes of his. The red and denim is such a beautiful color combination and I just love it. I think his Doctor faces a lot of criticisms that David Tennant's Doctor did, and it makes sense because it's the same person writing it. There's a sense of like faux, like over the top enthusiasm, you know? It feels a bit earnest at times and it doesn't feel real. These moments feel even a bit more exaggerated when we get the single teardrop that falls exactly in the same place every single time he cries, that it feels fake. It feels robotic. It feels so planned. It's like in the script, we have a single tear and Ncuti's like, yep, can do, and he does it. And I just don't feel like it's earned. And it makes those bigger moments where you really want that emotional reaction feel like nothing. And that's the problem with this one as well, because this time he's crying about a character we meet for half a second. The audience have no attachment to her. We all knew instantly that she was going to die when she was like, take Belinda home and then take me to the universe. And it's like, well, you're dead. And then she dies within seconds later. It's like comical. It's not sad. It doesn't make you feel anything. It's just like, oh, of course she's dead. You know, and it's stuff like that where I'm like, it just feels so weak. It feels unimportant. It's like, why are we shoehorning this in here? Why are we supposed to care about her? But then again, I do enjoy Ncuti's performance. And I think his chemistry with Belinda is really, really good. And I like what they've got going on. I feel like there's a good tension there. And I think he does the comedy moments quite well. And I think he's getting better at that as the series goes on, where he sonics the computer and the hospital power goes out. I think that was really funny. You know, stuff like that's great, even though, you know, that's pretty bad because he probably killed a few people doing that. Okay, maybe that's not funny. Maybe we should say, you know what? No, you're a bad guy, Doctor Who. How dare you? How dare you? How many people have to suffer? But I want to talk about this story as a whole. Like, let's look over the whole thing and think about it. I think the plot works really well. I love the idea of this time distortion and that different people are moving at different points and all of these elements are coming together to create this world. If Belinda never got there, this planet wouldn't even exist in the way that it is now, the way it was named, you know, how Alan was taking it over. You know, all of this stuff happens because of one little moment in history. And I love that type of stuff in Doctor Who. You know, even like Alan's fate and the type of person he becomes is for just a random one sentence where she says to the robots, oh, you know, it wasn't me, it was him. He's the one who bought the certificate. You should go and get him. And, you know, it's not supposed to be like a go and kill him. It's like a little brief, innocent thing to say, but it completely changed the course of this planet and their entire lives. And I think stuff like that is brilliant. I think it's a great idea. It's absolutely marvelous, as Russell T Davies would say. And I think this is a much more successful opener to a series than Space Babies. But I think that's also like saying this is better than Lobotomy. So I don't really think that's the greatest compliment. That's a joke. I'm Australian, so we sound really serious, but I was joking. I don't even mind Space Babies that much. I just wanted to say the joke. I love the design of the robots. The first time I saw the promo image, I wasn't really into it. But as soon as I watched the episode, I totally got what they were going for. It's funny the parallels in this with, you know, Martha's introduction in Smith and Jones. You know, you've got the hospital setting, you've got this force that also say similar lines of dialogue. You've got stuff like the robots being like, the cat is irrelevant. You know, that's like you can hear the Jadoon say. It feels like Russell's like repeating his greatest hits, but as soon as the plot leaves Earth, it feels fresh and unique. So, you know, it abandons that. It gives you a little bit of it, but it doesn't take over the entire narrative, which I think is okay. There's some beautiful concepts in this story. I love the idea of like buying one of those like star certificates and saying, oh, I named this star. And that somehow has some real effects to it. I think as a child, that would be really magical to watch. So sometimes I'll think like, oh, Doctor Who moves so fast nowadays. You know, back when I was younger, it didn't. But I think the truth is, I used to just watch these episodes on repeat, so the pacing never felt fast. So I don't think anything's really changed because it's the same time format. And I guess it's fitting the same amount of story into those 45-minute episodes. I just feel like the only thing that's different is that there's probably not as much character stuff as there once was. But I think there's enough in this to get me excited, to interest me, because to me, like, characters in Doctor Who are really, really important. I really want to care about the new companion because we've met like 1 million companions at this point. We've had like 1 million companion intro stories. The only thing that's supposed to be interesting about them is what makes this new character interesting, what makes them different, why should I like this person? Because like we said before, you know, this is like Smith and Jones. You know, she's a nurse, she's working in a hospital, they're bumping into each other. You know, this is stuff we've seen before. What should excite me about this? And the only thing that excites me is the characters. So they have to be good and they have to be interesting. I think Doctor Who's biggest problem is that its reinvention is a double-edged sword. On one half, its reinvention is the reason why we're here today, the concept of regeneration and how the show can reinvent itself and live on. But on the other side, it lacks momentum because every new season you're meeting a new companion or there's a new doctor. And it's like, well, how can I fall in love with a show that reinvents itself every season? I understand like reinventing itself every 3 years or every 5 years. And in the past, this worked better because we had longer episodes. We had more episodes. But last season, we had Ruby Sunday for 8 episodes, and the Doctor wasn't even in 2 of the episodes. And then we're supposed to care about these people when we haven't had time to really get to know them because there's so much going on in the episode that there isn't those times for them together alone. And I think that's the problem with Ruby being kicked off so early. I know she's going to make future appearances in this season, but the flow of this show is ruined by it. And I think that was one of the highlights of the Chris Chibnall era, is that you had Yaz throughout all of it. There was a consistency. You knew that they were going to turn up. Even though I felt like Yaz, I didn't really know her too well. I felt like I knew her enough that I liked her. And that's something I have an issue with Doctor Who as a whole. You know, I've met heaps of people who say, I stopped watching after this Doctor, or I left after Clara left. You know, stuff like that. It's like people get attached to these characters, and once they go, there's no reason for them to come back. How many times have we got to ask the general audience to have a brand new reinvention of Doctor Who? It's like they've seen it. It's been brandly reinvented like 1 million times. Why would they bother to stick with a show that's going to reinvent itself within a year anyway? Let's say you like this Doctor and this new companion, or don't worry, they're going to be gone next season. You know, it's like, why would you invest emotionally into a show that has no consistency? But without reinvention, we wouldn't be here today. So it is a double-edged sword, you know? I think the resolution is a little bit weak, you know, having the explosion and the Doctor using his Time Lord abilities to absorb the power. Sure, whatever. I can excuse these type of like weak resolutions if it works on an emotional level, But this one doesn't really either, so it just kind of wraps up. The episode just ends. You know, you've got the doctor kicking in the air and saying, "Yas, Queen." I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. But, you know, the little polish robot's funny, and, you know, and it's sucking him up is funny, and that's fine. It's fine. I'm okay with it. I do love the effect of the explosion where you have those beautiful like red and blue lights and it's all like experimental and different. I love that. And it's so fresh and different for Doctor Who. We haven't really seen stuff like that since the Daleks' Master Plan, where the first Doctor, Stephen Taylor, and Sarah Kingdom are being transported to a different planet, to the planet Myra, and it's these really beautiful slow motion effects and stuff like that. It feels reminiscent of that. And it's great to see Doctor Who experimenting with stuff like that. It's brilliant. And the visual effects throughout the entire thing are beautiful. And I love the set design, retro-futuristic stuff, even though it kind of looks a bit Disney. You know, it has that sense of polish to it, where it doesn't feel real. Like, these don't feel like real places. But then again, you know, you've got the robot that's polishing everywhere. It's intentional, it's a part of the storyline. But yeah, I think something that didn't really make too much sense to me was the whole AI generator thing. We do find out that machine is controlled by Alan, and then it's the owl generator, which it just doesn't make any sense. Like, what is he generating? By mentioning AI generator, it makes you think that it's trying to do some type of commentary on AI generation, but it doesn't do that at all. But then why would it be called the owl generator? It doesn't make any sense. It's just, yeah, the whole thing falls apart completely for me in that moment. Alan's motivation gets a little bit muddy with that bit where the Doctor is saying like, oh, every ninth word he's telling us the truth, where, you know, he's saying he's in pain and he's not unhappy. But at the same time, they're jumping up and down saying, oh, yay, he's dead. And it's like, wait, what's happening here? Is he trapped in that machine and he's unhappy? Or is he controlling that machine and he's destroying the planet because he's an angry person? And I feel like that messaging is a little bit muddied by that bit. And I think if you cut that out, that would have worked. But talking about like the every ninth word, I really do enjoy that first scene where the Doctor and Belinda are first properly meeting. He's delivering a message to her by every ninth word. I really enjoy that. Even though the concept is a little bit silly, I think the scene is just so well done that it's an enjoyable watch. And it shows Belinda already like jumping straight into it and instantly being on the same track as the Doctor. And it just works for me. It just does. I think the good thing about the story is that on its surface, it looks like a silly, goofy comedy episode, but it actually isn't. And I think that comes down to Verada's performance, because she's taking these comedy moments and grounding them, like I said earlier, where it could easily have been up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. So I really admire her, and I think she's going to be a great addition to this show. Throughout this video, I've talked about a lot of criticisms that I had, but I think ultimately this is an episode that works for me and I do enjoy it. It's not one of my favorite episodes of all time. I think it's a solid episode that works, and I really like Belinda, and I have a little bit more hope for the future of this season. And I'm looking forward to the rest of it, and I hope you are too. So what do I want to see changed in Doctor Who? I want more time with characters. I want more time for us as an audience to unravel the mystery for ourselves, to make us think about stuff without being told last minute, actually it's about this. Oh, you didn't notice this? Oh, you stupid. You're so dumb. I'm hoping that Belinda and the Doctor continue to argue a bit, but still form a friendship. I do not really care about who Mrs. Flood is, but I love Anita Dobson, so I enjoy her performance, but I'm not really too interested in this mystery box. She could be whoever and it doesn't matter to me, you know. I think it's moving in the direction of a show that I'm going to really enjoy. So yeah, what do you think of the robot revolution? Let me know in the comment section below. Okay. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Josh Nair's YouTube channel.